Heartwarming journey, rancher discovers amazing love and life-changing connection with young pretty city girl. Jack Thompson woke before dawn, the familiar strain of unease clenching his chest as he gazed across the dry pasture. The horizon, tinged gold with the sun's first rays, painted a beautiful lie. His world felt anything but beautiful. It was a hard life on the ranch, bending harshly against a backdrop of weighty memories, his father's laughter ringing through the fields, the crazed energy of stampeding cattle. But those days were slipping away like the last droplets of rain. Every sunrise counted down to a specter below. Debt loomed like a storm cloud above his head, dark and menacing, and this drought had turned his home into a golden graveyard, the earth cracking in despair. Then one afternoon, while slumping against an ancient oak, he saw her. The breeze danced through her hair, laughter bubbling like a babbling brook. Sophie, a firecracker of a woman from Austin, arrived to escape some chaotic past. Her bright eyes took everything in with wonder, and for Jack, she felt like sunlight breaking through a fog. Her voice, soft and laced with optimism, broke the weight of his world. "This place has a spirit, doesn't it?" she said, and he couldn't help but nod, feeling something inside him shift, a hope he had almost forgotten existed. Days turned into weeks. They shared moments under the stars, sipping sweet tea by the fire pit, each flicker of flames igniting laughter. She had a way of seeing beauty in the mundane, thorns blooming amidst the weeds. In her company, Jack found joy again, growing like wildflowers in the cracks of his wounded soul. But whispers followed Sophie like shadows, farmers' glares piercing through their laughter, judgment thickening the air every time he wrapped his arm around her shoulder or caught her hand. "What does she know about ranching?" they'd sneer, "a city girl, just a distraction." He could feel the weight of their eyes, digging into his back, testing his resolve. It was a tug-of-war between the punches of loyalty to his community and the blossoming affection for a woman who saw something more, something worth fighting for together. But the drought didn't relent, and as desperation grew, tension tightened its grip around the entire town. Jack felt the pledge to protect the land at any cost churn inside him like a raging storm. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Jack's heart raced when the bank's warning hit. Unpaid debts had morphed into an impending foreclosure. He had mere days to gather money or else lose the land his family fought for, the very land that tied him to his father's legacy. The weight of the betrayal from the townsfolk mixed with his fear of losing Sophie. Would they rally together as neighbors should, or would they turn on him for daring to share his life with someone like her? Taking a deep breath, Jack resolved to speak up. Standing on the town's South Main Street, he confronted the same fears he felt since he met Sophie. "You think I don't know what a real risk feels like?" He looked around, searching those hard-set faces for understanding. "Sophie showed me strength in vulnerability. She touched my heart." With everything spiraling, Jack felt the world tipping on a knife's edge, the line between love and loyalty drawing thin. Would he stand firm against the prejudice hitting like tonic rain, or would he have to face losing everything: the ranch, the community, and the girl who rekindled the fire in his heart? Jack's voice trembled, hanging in the thick air. The crowd's silence felt like a solid wall, almost suffocating. Their expressions were hardened, faces of townsfolk twisted by uncertainty and judgment, as if they were fighting an invisible battle in their hearts. Some exchanged furtive glances, whispers threatening to rise like a whirlwind. "Jack," came a deep voice from the back. It was Earl, an older rancher, someone who carried weight in the community. "You're risking more than just a ranch here. You're turning your back on your own. She's from the city. What does she know about anything out here?" The word stung like hot grit in Jack's throat, but he had to push through that pain. "She knows enough to see beauty in our struggle, to believe there is still hope." Jack's heart pounded as he scanned the crowd for any flicker of understanding. Why can't you see that I'm fighting for something worth it? Sophie emerged from behind him, her presence radiating a calm that seemed to envelop him, even amidst the storm. I may not be a rancher, but I'm here because I believe in Jack and in this land. Her voice was steady, ringing loud through the tense air. Drought may have taken a lot from you, Jack, but it can't take what we build together. Love can soften even the hardest ground. A few set jaws softened, and Jack saw nods ripple through the crowd. His gut clenched at the small glimmer of hope, but another voice cut through, slicing through the fragile moment. And what do you know about love? Someone shouted. Anger flared in a way Jack recognized all too well, protecting their own. People had wrestled long ago with hard realities out here. They had lost crops, dreams, and family. Jack's heart sank, but Sophie remained unbowed. I know love is sacrifice, she replied. It means standing beside each other even when the world pushes you apart. He watched as a few farmers shifted their stances uneasily. He could see the recognition creeping in enough to know that love could be as fierce as any storm, sometimes even a lifeline. Memories of laughter in the moonlight flickered through his mind, the way Sophie made him feel alive despite the barren land around them. But then, just as something felt like it might spark, Earl interrupted again, sounding resolute. Being a part of this community means honoring what came before. His voice held the weight of history, echoing tales of their ancestors' labor. Jack clenched his fists, determination swelling up inside him like a raging fire. This land represents my father's struggles, but it's also about my future. I'm not just a rancher, I'm a man who believes a new beginning is possible. The crowd was starting to settle, but he could still sense the battle wasn't over. If he couldn't break through the rift that separated townsfolk from his life with Sophie, would there be no path forward? And just like that, a sudden gust stirred through the gathered crowd, a hot wind blowing dust and uncertainty around them. Jack could hardly breathe, feeling the impending storm both inside him and above. Would that wind carry the weight away and whisper hope, or would it slap their reality back down, hard? The moment felt pivotal, a crossroad where everything could change. In that solitude, their eyes locked. Would this battle for love, even in the heart of a community divided, fuel a fire or a wrecking ball against him? As he stood there, the question loomed larger than life itself: who truly ruled the land? And just when it seemed like clarity might emerge from the confusion, a powerful crack of thunder echoed in the distance. Jack's heart dropped. What would the storm bring? Would it wash away love or cleanse the doubts between them? The wind howled like an angry spirit, swirling the dust around them as the first drops of rain began to fall, hesitant at first, then stronger. Jack could feel the crowd's tension crackling in the air. He stepped forward, heart racing, the rhythm of his pulse matching the distant thunder. Listen, he called out, the urgency in his voice a stark contrast to the soft patter of rain beginning to drum against the earth. We've all fought hard. We've faced struggles that would break most people. But I believe we can rise from this together. Sophie stepped beside him, her resolve stronger than the fickle winds. All my life, I've stood on concrete. But I came here because I want to understand your world. I want to help you rebuild, not just out of charity, but as partners. She looked around, searching faces for a connection. We all want the same thing, don't we? A future to believe in. Silence enveloped them, thick like molasses. Jack caught glimpses of frustrated glances and uncertain faces. Some were open, slowly softening, while others were closed as tightly as a fist. He felt the weight of their eyes, fear mixed with anger, sweat mixed with worry. As the rain began pouring down, a collective gasp swept through the crowd. It was as if nature itself wanted to participate in this fragile moment. Jack could almost feel the water seeping into the cracks of their distrust. Earl's face, tense at first, shifted slightly. You really think a city girl can understand this life? This loneliness? His voice wavered. Jack could sense the deep-rooted pain behind Earl's words, the loneliness of facing loss without a comforting hand. Yes. Jack shouted, the conviction spilling out of him. Because loneliness is something we all know. It doesn't matter where you come from, what matters is how hard you're willing to fight for what you believe in. A ripple of murmurs spread through the crowd, and Jack's heart leaped. This drought has tried to break us. It's a fight that you can't win alone. But together, we can weather the storms. We can bring this land back to life. Sophie, emboldened, added, what if we looked at this not as abandoning the past, but building a bridge to the future? You have the spirit of the land in your hearts. Let us combine it with the hope that we can share. Then, as if the heavens were answering their plea, the thunder roared again, and the downpour intensified. The townsfolk stood entranced, faces flushed with the realization that something in their hearts was changing. But Earl shook his head, a mixture of fear and stubbornness flashing through his eyes. It's not that simple, Jack. Jack felt a sudden gut punch at the old rancher's words. He stepped closer, unwavering. I never said it would be simple. But isn't love worth the fight? Our roots run deep, but we can grow new branches. In that moment, the rain transformed, washing away the dust of doubt and fear, soaking into the arid ground, promising renewal. Jack could see a woman wipe her tear-streaked cheek while another man turned his head towards Sophie, curiosity breaking through his previous indifference. Then, just as hope began to flicker, a loud crash echoed in the distance. A flash of lightning struck nearby, startling the crowd, and within moments, the tension returned sharp and palpable. Jack's heart raced. This was a defining moment, but would it push them back into their defenses? Or would it serve as a catalyst for unity? He knew they had to decide, and fast. As he scanned the eyes of the crowd, he felt the warmth of love and friendship battling against the cold winds of doubt. Out there, amidst the heavy raindrops, lay the breath of change. But would they inhale it or turn away? And just when resolution seemed possible, two figures emerged at the edge of the crowd, a man and a woman, covered in mud, looking lost. Jack's gut twisted. Who were they? What did they want? A new chapter loomed ahead, holding the weight of possibility. Would they bring hope, or would they only stir the storm? The air thickened with uncertainty as the crowd shifted, eyes drawn to the two figures stumbling from the edge like shadows stretching into the light. The rain drummed louder, a rolling symphony that underscored the tension rising in Jack's chest. Jack took a step forward, instinctively protective. Who are you? His voice was firm but gentle, urging the newcomers out of the storm that seemed to echo their disarray. The man, his clothes clinging like wet rags, stepped forward to reveal a lined face marked by both youth and weariness. I'm Thomas, he stammered. This is my sister, Annabelle. He motioned to the young woman beside him. Her wide eyes glistened with confusion and something deeper, desperation, maybe. You're safe here, Sophie assured them, her voice cutting through the words that hung heavy in the air. What happened out there? Thomas inhaled sharply, his gaze flickering over the crowd. He swallowed his fear and pressed on. We lost our farm to the drought. My father, he tried to hold on, but his voice broke, as if the weight of loss had settled on his shoulders, pulling him down. Jack felt the collective breath of the crowd's sudden curiosity intertwined with empathy. They were not alone. Each story resonated like a drumbeat, echoing the struggles they had faced. Jack took a cautious step closer, mirroring the warmth that filled him. We're all fighting battles. But you're here now. That means we can help each other. Annabelle finally spoke, her voice a whisper that pierced the downpour. We heard what you said. About rebuilding, about fighting together. She paused, breath hitching. But can we really? Can hope live here? As the words circled around them, Jack felt it pull at their hearts, energy crackling back and forth. Earl stood silently, his expression softer now, watching the new arrivals with a shared understanding. Jack sensed this was a moment where walls could either come crashing down or rise higher, like a cruel game being played by fate. Hope isn't a fairy tale, Jack said, softening his tone. It's messy, it's hard, but it's also powerful. Just look around you. He gestured at the crowd, full of faces marked by resilience. You're not alone anymore. The murmurs intensified, voices lifting with determination. Sophie stepped forward, holding out her hand to Annabelle. You don't have to feel lost. We can make this home together. Let us put our hearts together and see what grows from there. With a hesitant glance, Annabelle took a step closer. The rain swirled around them, and for an instant, the weight of their shared fears lightened. Hope kindled in the depths of their eyes, the kind ignited by connection. As the thunder rumbled overhead, roaring like a restless beast, something electric sparked within the gathered souls. Jack saw it, the flicker of possibility playing across their faces, a small flame against the storm. But then, without warning, the man who had remained silent within the crowd broke through the chain of hesitant souls, a rugged man named Ben, whose face bore a familiar recklessness. What makes you think we can trust each other? This rain, it's washing away our land and our memories. His voice was raw, laced with skepticism. Jack steeled himself, feeling the weight of Ben's challenge. Trust isn't built overnight, but it starts with one act of courage, doesn't it? Are you willing to try? The crowd fell quiet again, the tension palpable as each soul grappled with doubt and potential. The rain poured on, but somewhere, beneath it all, hope flickered, fighting for breath, so fragile yet undeniable, and just as their hearts began to pulse with a rhythm of unity, a shout rang through the air, a warning cry. Look! A rider galloped into view, desperately aiming towards them, soaked but determined. The urgency in his posture cut through the tension like glass shattering. What news would he bring? Would it further entwine their fates, or would it drive them apart? The rider came thundering closer, splashing through puddles like a message storming its way through the air. His horse kicked up water, shrouding him in a veil of grey mist. Jack squinted through the rain, desperation etched across the rider's face as he drew closer, the urgency of his approach sinking into the crowd like stones in a still pond. Please! Help! The man shouted, his voice hoarse from the ride and the weather mixed with fear. Everyone shifted forward, eyes widening, hearts racing. Jack felt an instinctive pull to protect, but he couldn't shake the eerie feeling that what lay ahead might carry more weight than a storm. When the rider finally reined in, panting heavily, he surveyed the crowd with wild eyes, searching. I'm Lucas from the North Fields. Something's happening. The river has burst its banks. It's flooding the lower pastures. His words fell fast, frantic, slicing through the tension. Jack felt every pulse of the crowd react. Confusion and fear rippled through their ranks. Thomas stepped forward, panic skimming the surface of his composure. How bad is it? Are there others? What do you mean flooding? Lucas barely nodded, impatience thrumming in his veins. I saw families trying to move livestock to higher ground. Old Mr. Campbell, he's too frail to move fast. We need to help him. His voice cracked, urgency bleeding into emotion. Jack's heart raced. He turned to the crowd, eyes scanning the sea of concerned faces. We have to act. We can't let anyone get left behind. Lucas needs our help now. Annabelle's hand found Thomas's arm, squeezing tight as she exchanged worried glances with him. They were still raw with their own pain, still trembling from their recent loss. Yet here was a chance, another battle to join. Yeah, but how? Ben shot back, his mistrust still simmering beneath the surface. We're already at our breaking point. What do we have to offer? We have each other. Sophie's voice rose above the chatter, her tone was resolute, firm, a spark igniting in the storm. Every person here can make a difference, even if it's small. Thomas stepped forward, conviction edging out uncertainty on his face. I know the layout of the land. I can help lead people to safety. One by one, heads turned, nodding in agreement. Jack felt the shift around him, fear mixing with determination, the kindling of courage lighting the air. He took a deep breath, feeling his own resolve harden. Then let us move, Jack declared, heart pounding in tandem with the rain. We'll split into groups. Annabelle, you stay with Sophie and help gather supplies. The crowd erupted into action, pumping adrenaline mingling with raindrops. Everyone slipped into their roles with the frantic energy of survival, hearts beating as one under the weight of uncertainty. Jack felt Annabelle's hesitant smile before she was swept away, her determination sparked alongside her brother, but as they began to organize, a new voice cut through a panic-laden shout from a distance. Help! They're trapped! The collective dread blanketed them again. Jack turned his gaze to the direction of the voice, and the reality of the situation twisted in his gut. Where would they find the strength to confront what lay ahead? They were already stepping into floodwaters filled with uncertainty. Lucas pulled Jack aside, urgency lacing his voice. We can't wait. We have to save them before it's too late. Can we count on everyone? Jack looked into his eyes, the flicker of determination shining amidst the storm. We can count on each other. Together, we'll face whatever comes. But we need to hurry. As they moved toward the sound of distress, determination thrumming in every heartbeat, Jack couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. They were stepping into a new world, one stitched together by hope and fear alike. What awaited them behind the chaos? The rain continued its relentless pounding, obscuring the horizon, but within their hearts, the flicker of hope remained a flame ready to burn brighter, even amidst the darkest storm. And as they rushed into uncertainty, Jack couldn't help but wonder, would they emerge stronger, or would the floodwaters swallow them whole? The sound of the desperate cries pierced through the rain, intensifying Jack's resolve. He felt the urgency pushing them all forward, the tension snapping like a taut string ready to break. Lucas was right, they couldn't lose any more time. Stay close. Jack shouted, raising his voice above the din of the storm. He tightened his grip on a nearby fence post as they crossed into the muddy fields that led to the lower pastures. The ground thudded under their feet, a reminder of the reality they faced. Water pooled around their ankles, a chilling indicator of what lay ahead. The group moved as one, hearts thudding with each step. They could barely see through the storm, but the cries grew louder with every inch they pressed on. A wave of determination crashed into Jack as he glanced back at his companions. Thomas had found a makeshift torch, a flickering beacon against the advancing darkness, casting uncertain shadows on the scared faces around them. Keep it steady, Thomas. Jack called out, finding a new rhythm in the chaos. They had a semblance of hope, and that flame needed to be nurtured. Hackles rising, they pushed through the thick mud, each slipping and regaining their footing in the muck. Over there. Lucas pointed, his voice barely breaking through the roar of the rain, as they approached a small shack half swallowed by the rising waters. A family could be seen silhouetted against the storm, struggling to hold on to a battered door where old Mr. Campbell surely waited. Jack's gut twisted. They couldn't lose anyone else, not now. With a few powerful strides, he found himself at the edge of the flooded area. Water swirled menacingly around the door, and he could see the old man's frail form just behind it, eyes wide with fear. Hang on, Mr. Campbell. We're coming. Jack shouted, his voice a lifeline cast into the chaos. A response hung in the air, heavy with despair. Jack locked eyes with Lucas, and they nodded, the unspoken agreement that they would do whatever it took stirred within them. We need a plan. Jack barked. Sophie, do you see anything we can use? Sophie scanned the area desperately, and then pointed to a pile of discarded boards at the edge of the shack. We can make a barrier. It'll give us more time to reach them. Then let us do it. Jack replied, rushing over and piling the boards across the waist-deep water. Ben and Lucas joined him, the three of them working feverishly, breath quickening as every precious second slipped away. Can you make it across? Lucas asked, looking back at Thomas and Sophie as they secured the makeshift bridge. We can try. Thomas yelled back, his voice full of determination. Jack's heart swelled as he watched them muster every ounce of courage to join the fray. Together, they were rising, hearts united against the rising tide. Just as they finished, a rumble sounded behind them like thunder but deeper, more foreboding. Jack turned, dread tugging at his insides. What was that? Look! Sophie screamed, pointing upward. In the fury of the storm, the sky seemed to twist violently. It was as if nature itself was unleashing its wrath, the clouds swirling ominously. We have to move now. Jack shouted, shoving urgency into their collective spirit. We have no time to waste. As they hurried towards the shack, Jack could hear the crack of wood and the unsettling sounds of shifting earth. His heart raced. They were this close, yet danger loomed like a predator. Would they make it in time? With pulse quickening, he took a deep breath as the chill of the rain mixed with the heat of fear coursing through his veins. They were out of time. Would they reach old Mr. Campbell before the storm swallowed them whole? Jack's heart thudded in his chest as he launched himself towards the shack, every muscle screaming at him to hurry. The rain battered down heavier, each drop like a tiny hammer against his skin. He could see the pale glow of the torch flickering in the storm, a desperate flicker of hope against the chaos. Come on! Jack urged his companions, voice strained. Lucas pushed ahead, his eyes focused on the door, while Ben and Thomas flanked Jack, their collective resolve a shield against the storm's fury. They reached the water's edge, and Jack's stomach dropped. The old door hung precariously, and the family clung to it, fear evident in their faces. He could see Mr. Campbell's trembling hands barely grasping the worn wood. Time was slipping away like the muddy water around them. Lucas, get ready to pull him out, Jack shouted, positioning himself near the door. Ben, help me steady it. We need to make this quick. Right. Ben replied, determination etched on his face. They steadied the door as best they could, holding their breath against the rising tide. The wind howled like a wounded animal, urging them forward. Mr. Campbell, hold on. Jack yelled, reaching his arm across the gap. We're here. Just a bit further. With a desperate lurch, Mr. Campbell pushed against the door, the old wood straining against the water's force. Jack could see the panic in the old man's eyes, hollow and glistening. This was more than just a wall of water, it was their last line of defense. Now! Lucas shouted. He reached forward, grabbing Mr. Campbell's wrist, and Jack gripped his arm tight. With a heave, they pulled, muscle straining as they fought against the pull of the water. Suddenly, the door creaked ominously, threatening to give way beneath the weight of the storm. Hold it! Jack roared, his voice barely audible over the noise. The group grunted, pulling with everything they had while the wind screamed in protest. One fierce gust rattled their hold just as they managed to yank the old man, water splashing violently. With a final, powerful effort, they dragged Mr. Campbell across the threshold, their bodies colliding in a tangle of limbs. Relief washed over Jack like the rain drenching them. It was a sweet, intoxicating kind of happiness. They had done it. They had pulled him to safety. But relief was short-lived. The ground groaned beneath them, and Jack's heart plummeted. We need to get inside now. He could see the shack swaying, mud sliding away in sheets, dragging them towards the flood. Go! Lucas yelled, and they stumbled together through the door, practically dropping Mr. Campbell on the floor. He was safe, but Jack could feel the world outside unraveling. Inside was dim, the air thick with tension. They gathered around Mr. Campbell, whose eyes darted between them, full of gratitude and fear. Thank you, he gasped, catching his breath. Don't thank us yet, Jack replied, glancing at the faltering walls. We aren't out of this yet. The walls shook as thunder rumbled, the storm outside intensifying, the very earth vibrating beneath them. Jack's heart raced again, fear creeping back in as he looked around at his friends. They were all soaked, breathing hard, but their eyes held something fierce hope. But hope shattered as a loud crack split the air. Jack turned just in time to see a massive tree uprooted, crashing down towards the shack. Get down! He shouted, instinctively pushing Mr. Campbell away as he and his friends dove to the ground just as the roof splintered above them. As dust and debris filled the air, Jack wondered if they had acted too late. Was this the storm that swallowed them whole? The moment felt frozen, hearts racing in the hushed aftermath of the chaos. Would they survive this onslaught? And more importantly, would they find their way back home? The world felt like it was collapsing around Jack. He could smell the damp wood, mixed with the earthy scent of the rain and the faint mustiness of the shack. Thick dust swirled in the dim light, making it hard to see. His heart raced, and his breath caught in his throat. Fear drenched the air heavier than the rain outside. "Is everyone okay?" he called out hoarsely, scanning the room in frantic desperation. Lucas groaned, pushing himself up from the ground. He rubbed his head, wincing at the pain. "I think so." His voice was shaky, but he still managed a brave smile. "Just a little in the mood for a dance with a tree, that's all." Jack smirked, appreciating the attempt to lighten the mood, even if it fell flat against the raw tension filling the space. "Mr. Campbell?" Ben asked from the corner, his voice tight with concern. The old man lay sprawled, breathless but alive. Jack rushed over, reaching out a hand to help him up. There were cuts on his arms, scratches from the splintered wood gusting down like arrows. "I'm all right. I think," Mr. Campbell rasped, finally sitting up. He looked at Jack with wide eyes, gratitude shining through the fear. "You boys saved my life." Jack felt pride swell in him. They had done something incredible, but anxiety gnawed at his insides. "But we're not safe yet. We need a plan. The roof may not hold." Thunder rumbled again, shaking the shack. A few droplets dripped from above, mixing with the muddy water pooled on the floor. They had to act fast. "Where's the nearest shelter?" "A barn. We need to get to higher ground," Thomas suggested, his voice tense as he ran a hand through his drenched hair. "There's an old barn a few miles back." Mr. Campbell wheezed, squinting as if trying to recall the structure through the chaos. "But it'll be a struggle with the floods." "Then let us struggle," Jack declared, his voice igniting with resolve. "We're not leaving anyone behind. We're getting you there." He turned to his friends, trying to ignite that fierce hope in their hearts once more. "We'll stick together, just like we did to get you out." As they all got back on their feet, the wind howled outside, echoing their uncertainty. But Jack noticed something else: strength in their unity. They were a team. They had pulled through storm and danger, and they wouldn't let fear shatter them now. "Okay, on the count of 3. He inhaled deeply, gathering courage. 1, 2, 3. They surged toward the door, Jack leading the group as he burst through the opening. Water splashed up against their legs, pushing against their every step. The storm roared, but their spirits roared louder. With every step away from the shack, every step toward the barn, they were reclaiming their hope. "Keep moving," Lucas called out, eyes focused ahead. "Keep moving." The barn came into view, barely standing against the onslaught of rain and wind. Jack felt a surge of adrenaline. They were close, but then the ground beneath them shifted again, destabilizing. The mud, slick and treacherous, pulled at their boots, threatening to trap them. Jack stumbled, nearly slipping as he reached for Mr. Campbell. "Hang on, Jack!" Thomas shouted, eyes wide with alarm. "Look out!" A roar drowned out his warning, and Jack spun around just in time to see a wall of mud cascading toward them, a relentless tide that could bury them whole. "Run!" Jack cried, adrenaline fueling his limbs as they dashed toward the barn, pushing forward against the flood, against the weight of desperation. Would they make it there in time? Would the barn be a sanctuary or just another trap? The answers loomed like the storm above them, and Jack's heart raced at the thought of what might not only determine their fate but bond them forever. Mud splashed around their legs like angry waves, threatening to pull them under. Jack could feel the tremor of panic within him but tried to suppress it. He had to stay focused. They were fighting against nature, against something that felt unstoppable. Faster. We need to reach the barn. He yelled, trusting that the urgency in his voice would propel them forward. The gusts of wind whipped at his face, cold and biting, but he pushed through, glancing back to ensure everyone was still with him. Almost there. Lucas shouted, trying to keep the fear at bay, but Jack could see the worry etched on his friend's face. The barn loomed closer, a shadowy figure amid the chaotic grays of the storm. Water rushed around them, knee-deep now. Jack's heart raced faster with each step as he focused on the barn's rotting door. It was their beacon of safety. But as they ventured deeper into the mud, Jack noticed Thomas fall behind, struggling to keep his footing. "Thomas!" Jack shouted, seeing the fear in his friend's widening eyes. Jack snatched a glance at the wave of mud still barreling toward them. "I'm coming." He broke from the group, his heart hammering. The ground squelched beneath him as he reached for Thomas's hand. It was slippery, but he gripped it tight. "We can't give up now. Hold on to me." "Jack, the mud!" Thomas yelled, panic seeping into his words. Just then, the ground beneath them shifted once more, the threat of the muddy wave creeping closer. The chaos around them felt unreal, like a nightmare no one could wake up from. Jack pulled with everything he had, feeling the weight of the storm, but also the weight of their friendship. Thomas stumbled, but Jack didn't let go. "Just a bit more. We've got this." With a final heave, Jack managed to yank Thomas toward him. They both fell but landed on solid ground, the barn mere steps away, dark and foreboding. "Get inside," Jack urged, adrenaline surging. He threw open the heavy door, the creaking sound almost swallowed by the wind's howls. As the last of the group pushed through, they were met with the musty smell of hay and the gray shadows that filled the barn. "Did we make it?" Mr. Campbell panted, his breath escaping in shaky bursts. They all nodded, breathless and soaked, but alive. Inside the barn, the sound of the storm reduced to a distant roar. Jack leaned against a wooden post, his heart still racing. "We're safe for now." They huddled together for warmth, the air thick with the scent of wet hay. Jack looked around at his friends, faces drawn with exhaustion but illuminated by the spark of survival. It felt strangely cozy, even in the midst of chaos. "What now?" Lucas finally asked, pulling off his soaked shirt and wringing it out. "We're stuck here, right?" "Maybe," Jack said, scanning the barn. Old tools hung from the walls, and hay bales lined the corners. "But we can make the best of it. We have each other, and we'll figure this out together." As the storm continued to rage outside, Jack felt a sense of determination rising within him. Whatever challenges lay ahead, he could face them as long as they were together. He thought about what had brought them here, the bond forged through fear but strengthened by teamwork. Just then, the barn creaked ominously, a reminder that it wasn't entirely secure. Jack could hear the wind howl and the rain beat against the roof. He glanced at everyone and felt a deep urge to protect them. "We'll hold this together," he promised, his voice firm. "We'll make it through the night. Who knows, maybe we'll even find a way out by morning." But then a loud crash echoed from above, a splintering sound that froze the group in place. Jack's heart sank. "What was that?" he whispered, eyes wide with dread. In that moment, the fear of the unknown crept back in, darker than the storm outside. What if the barn couldn't hold either? What if they hadn't escaped the chaos after all? The answers were starting to unravel, and Jack braced himself. They needed to prepare for whatever came next. How much longer could they stay hidden in this sanctuary? And what awaited them if they did? The storm raged outside, a cacophony of wind and water that felt like the earth was tearing itself apart. Inside the barn, Jack's heart raced as he swiveled his head toward the source of the noise. "Everyone stay close," he urged, determination flooding his voice. He looked around the dim barn, its rough wooden beams creaking with the weight of the storm, the group huddled together, Lucas, Ben, Sophie, Thomas, and the frail old Mr. Campbell, their faces painted with fear and fatigue, yet a flickering light burned in their eyes. It was that same spirit of community that had driven them forward just moments before. "Do we have anything we can use to reinforce the roof?" Jack's mind raced, each heartbeat quickening the urgency in his tone. "We need to make sure we're safe in here. We can stack some hay bales against the beams," Sophie shouted, her voice cutting through the noise. "It'll help absorb some of the impact." "Yeah," Lucas added quickly, his eyes lighting up. "Those tools on the wall could be helpful too. I saw a hammer and some nails." Jack could feel the tide of anxiety beginning to shift. There, surrounded by the chaos of the storm, they found strength in purpose. "Let us get to work," he declared, pushing aside fear as the group surged into action. They rushed to the far side of the barn, grabbing stacks of hay bales and piles of tools along the way. Jack felt the adrenaline coursing through him, urging him forward. As they hastily piled the bales against the rotting beams, Jack caught sight of Mr. Campbell leaning weakly against a wall. "You're okay?" Jack asked, rushing over. "I'm all right, just tired," Mr. Campbell whispered. His gratitude shone through the remnants of anxiety. Jack nodded, a sense of shared purpose enveloping them all. "Stay close, we'll get through this together," Jack promised, determination flooding his heart. With their group working like a well-rehearsed orchestra, they focused on securing the barn against the wrath of nature outside. It felt like battling the tide of uncertainty and fear together, each effort a small victory, each whispered word of encouragement a testament to their trust in one another. Moments later, they stepped back, gasping for breath, as the barn trembled in the grip of the storm. Jack scanned their hard work, the hay bales now firmly stacked, reinforcing the shaky beams overhead. He could feel the weight of everyone's hope surging around him, contagious and fierce. "I think it's going to hold," Ben exclaimed, winking in the dim light. "At least for now." The laughter that followed broke through the tension, a tiny flicker of joy amidst the swirling chaos outside, but just as relief washed over them, a bone-chilling crack sliced through the air as if announcing the inevitable. Jack's stomach dropped as he turned toward the sound, heart racing at the looming shadows. The storm had not relented, it was only growing fiercer. Just then, a loud crash reverberated, the wind slashing with an intensity that shook their very souls. "Get to the back!" Jack yelled, adrenaline surging again as he fired orders, pulling everyone out of the frozen moment. They darted for the rear of the barn, moving as one unit against the grip of fear. Makeshift shelter would be better here, Thomas urged, his eyes darting nervously as he searched for solid ground. They gathered tight together, trying to shield Mr. Campbell from the threatening tremors. Jack could feel the pounding of the storm against the wooden walls, like a beast trying to break free. But in that moment of sheer terror, Jack's resolve grew stronger. They were all family now, and love would bind them through the storm. "Listen!" Jack shouted above the clamor. "This storm may try to tear us apart, but no wind will take us down as long as we keep standing together." Hope surged like electricity through the air, igniting determination in their hearts. The fear that had held them rooted began to dissipate, replaced by a fierce camaraderie. "Yeah!" Lucas shouted, clenching his fists. "We've gone through way too much to fall apart now." Each voice joined in, fueled by defiance. "Let's remind this storm what we're made of," Jack called, feeling the weight of their shared breath sinking, heartbeats harmonizing amid the chaos. Moments later, the thunder roared once more, an ominous reminder of nature's fury outside, but Jack stood firm within the shelter. The earlier shadows of doubt were now baked in the warmth of resilience. They would weather this storm together. Just as long as they believed in each other. Then, all at once, the storm shifted. The wind slowed, the furious rain began to lighten, and for the first time in what felt like days, a glimmer of sunlight peeked through the clouds. Hope swelled like a morning chorus, filling the barn with an air of transformation. Jack felt tears prickle his eyes, proof that even in the darkest of storms, glimmers of love and friendship could spark, with renewed fire in their hearts, they stepped out of the barn into a world washed clean. The sun lit up the horizon like a golden promise, bathing them in warmth. Every heart swelling with possibility, every spirit breathing anew. They had faced the storm together and emerged unbroken. Look! Sophia pointed at the glistening ground, life is already sprouting again. Jack took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the world begin to lift, the promises of tomorrow woven into the fabric of today. We'll begin again, he said softly, looking at his family friends turned family by his side, and so they stood, together against the backdrop of their land, ready to reclaim what they believed in a journey of love and resilience. Jack's voice trembled as he said, "This storm has tested us, but it has also shown us what lies in our hearts. We can build a future together, stronger than before." With eyes shimmering in certainty, they turned to one another, forging ahead every step an act of love, every heartbeat echoing with a shared hope that would last through every storm to come. Now is the time to show you care. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and share your support. Comment your reactions and feelings about this powerful ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share.